Let's get back to the speeding trooper homicide trial in Georgia. Former state trooper A.J. Scott faces charges of vehicular homicide and reckless driving.
Prosecutors say that he was driving 90 miles per hour in a 45 zone when he crashed into a car full of teens, killing 2 and injuring 2 others.
Let's get you back into the courtroom now. We are listening to testimony from a crash reconstruction specialist from the Georgia State Patrol. He had shown pictures of the scene. Let's go back in.
This is some of your work.
I did not do the scale diagram, so it does not look like a scale diagram that I would have produced on the 13, but the guy who did, this is a scale diagram of the scene. We typically have a template we put around. This could be a close-up.
Is that something you would have created?
We would have in a case like this, yes.
But you can't identify that this is yours?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm going to show you some other photographs. Yeah, hopefully you can identify those. While I do this, I do want to ask you a question. Before you testified earlier, you worked at Barnesville at the Lamar County Sheriff's Office, correct?
I'm impressed that you knew that Barnesville was in Lamar County. Yes, sir, I did.
And then you said you worked at Griffin up in Spalding County, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. During that time, what was your job with those trials?
So at the sheriff's office, just the general duties of a deputy sheriff, patrol, courtroom, serving papers. City of Griffin is where actually I with them served on the traffic unit and got a bigger interest in crash reconstruction. I took my 1 through 5 levels that I talked to you guys about earlier, the crash reconstruction levels. I got those at City of Griffin. With hopes of creating their own little skirt team there, but the chief didn't want to do that. So that's one of the things that propelled me to go to the State Patrol, because I had such an interest in crashes. I felt that I could expand my knowledge base more at the State Patrol than the City of Griffin.
Now, you actually took photographs that night. I think we saw one of Mrs. Chinchilla in the backseat, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall if you ever got closer to her body than what we saw in the photograph?
We did. We went to the hospital where she was kept later and took close-up photographs of her. That was at Tannerman.
Okay. Do you recall taking photographs of her and possibly moving her head at the scene?
I do not recall moving her head, no. We did take photographs of her on the scene, but I don't recall moving her body. Obviously, we would have removed her from the vehicle. We would not have, but responders would have removed her from the vehicle.
And do you recall anything being around her head in the car?
Without a picture to recollect my memory, I would not.
If I might just take a short minute, I just think I can help with this.
All right, we're not really certain yet what he's looking at, but Michael, you made a good point, which is really it seems like this particular reconstruction specialist, the weight of his testimony was the pictures that he introduced from the crime scene.
Yeah, on direct, he didn't really give an opinion or any kind of reconstruction of what would have happened. There was a suggestion that there's another company that did some drone footage. They may have made an assessment, but ultimately I don't know. Let's go back.
Anything about inside of the car that night?
In the rear passenger compartment area, there were broken beer bottles and other evidence of alcoholic beverages in there.
Was there a scent emanating from inside of the vehicle?
Yes, with broken beer bottles, you could imagine that it was permeating in the car. Yes.
And in your time as a patrol officer and as a police officer, have you ever made DUI stops, and DUI arrests, and DUI, have you testified in DUI case all of those?
Of course, yes.
Okay. And are you familiar with the term totality of the evidence?
Yes, I can make a conclusion as to that. Yes, sir.
And if we look for the jury, is the totality of the evidence essentially the adding up of pieces to 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 4? Is that a fair analogy?
Correct. You evaluate all the evidence and see where it leads you. You never want to go into a case with a conclusion before the evidence leads you there.
And so, and oftentimes in DUI cases, it involves, say that a sobriety test, they communicate, unstable feet, blood shot, water gas, all those things.
Correct, yes.
If a driver is unable to communicate or can't answer certain questions, that's can be an indicator of the totality. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked and it's shown 10 photographs. Defense exhibit 1 through 10. Look through those and tell me if those, in fact, is part of that investigation that night.
Yes, sir. These are pictures that we would have taken in the scene. This is the inside of the vehicle, the civilian vehicle.
Okay, the Nissan.
Yes, Nissan.
Your Honor, I would intended, are these in the same condition as you removed them?
They are, yes.
Still with us, trial attorney Gene Rossi. Gene, as we've been watching, Michael and I have literally been sitting here with our pens and paper to say, okay, we know the kids were traveling south. We know that we know that the trooper was traveling north, but what else happened? We want to show this video. Yes, it may be hard to see, but watch what happens. This is the dash cam video from the trooper's car traveling north on this road. They were traveling south. They turned. Here's what I struggle with. To me, that video makes it so apparent that he is flying. They're cautiously, arguably, slowly crossing the road, turning. They go to turn, and he can't help but hit them. It's cloudy, it's rainy, it's dark. That to me just screams recklessness by a trooper driving.
And I want to say a trooper who's not responding to a call. He's not really going to a crime scene. He's just speeding. And when I was reading the material here, and you know, we're getting into football season. He was going so fast, and this just struck me like a lightning bolt. He's going so fast, he traveled the length of a football field every second. A jury will just say that is unbelievably fast. And that video and just that statistic, to me, is like the core of the case. I want to just say something about the crash reconstruction cross-examination. When you do a cross-examination, this is probably a super key witness. You got to be organized, you have to be efficient, you have to be judicious. And this cross seems to be lumbering a little bit. But that video and that statistic I just said, to me, are the core of this case. Everything else is icing on the cake.
I got to ask you, because I agree, and I think we agree,
yeah, I
right?
do.
It's icing on the cake. The first jury came back deadlocked twice in this case. Just want to let you know that, let our viewers know that. But here's the other thing that shocked me about the case. He's charged with serious injury by vehicle, facing 1 to 15 years. With the homicide by vehicle second degree, it was charged in connection with speeding rather than reckless driving. Speeding makes it a misdemeanor. He can only do up to a year if he's convicted for causing the deaths here. Had it been charged with the reckless driving, it would have been for life. Why would a prosecutor charge the case this way?
Gene, your face is giving you away.
Why would they cut him a break? Here's the thing. Whenever you have a law enforcement official who's a defendant, it raises the bar for a jury. It just does. And the other thing is, this is a case where clearly there's no, malice aforethought, specific intent. This is basically a gross negligence case. And when you have a law enforcement official who's the defendant, a state trooper, they're like the Green Berets of law enforcement, and they're held in high esteem. That raises the bar in a juror's mind, and that's why it can be a mistrial hung jury, if not an acquittal. It's just the nature of the defendant.
Wow. Thank you for the insight, and we've been talking about that here on set as we're watching this unfold. We do need to take a break. When we come back, we'll go back into court to hear more from the collision reconstructionist. Stay tuned.
Anna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law.
Terrible. Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
The Matriarch Mastermind murder trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, the Menendez brothers fight for release after 35 years behind bars. We have teams on the ground with the latest from today's parole hearing.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8, 7 Central, only on Court TV.
All right, folks, let's get you back to Georgia now for more testimony in the speeding trooper homicide trial for A.J. Scott.
The former Georgia State Patrol trooper faces charges of vehicular homicide and reckless driving. Prosecutors say he was driving 90 miles per hour in a 45-mile zone when he crashed into a car full of teens, killing 2 and injuring 2 others. Let's go back into court. We are listening to more testimony from a Georgia State Patrol crash reconstructionist.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would move to tender defense exhibits 1 through 10 and publish the jury.
Any objections? Would you call the custody?
Yes, ma'am. Did you participate in the inventory of the Nissan or something like that?
No, sir. Later we would have inspected the vehicle, and we don't necessarily inventory a vehicle as far as like with a typical any other kind of criminal arrest where you inventory what's in it, anything of significant value to make sure that it turns up missing later, there's some record of it. So we don't inventory in that manner. We just photograph the things we see within the vehicle. If that answers that question.
It does.
Yes.
Did you photograph this vehicle, this Nissan, and the inside of the contents thereof at a later date at some point in time?
Yes, we would have done that at the tow yard later, done a more complete inspection of the vehicles. Usually on the scene, it's just documenting things as is, and then we do a more complete inspection. Tire pressures, whether or not safety features work like they were supposed to. We do that later at the tow yard. Controlled environment.
And some of these photographs, these are still part of your overall investigation. You recognize in those photographs you would have taken and been very close to when I think.
Yes, ma'am. I apologize. Yes, sir. I was looking at her when I said yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I've been called for. All right. Your Honor, may I publish one?
Any objection? No objection. All right. And 1 through 10 are admitted, and you may publish.
I'm going to start with photograph 1. And So the photograph was taken, and I'm going to point. There appears to be alcohol bottle in the car. Is that fair that that is what you were trying to capture, that the water bottle?
Yes, sir. That looks like the top of a broken glass beer bottle with the cap still on top. So, of course, the contents, if it weren't open at the time, the contents were spewed into the vehicle, making the alcohol smell.
I'll show you what's marked is. I'm going to try to get correct context right now. We saw, and you testified earlier, some markings in the road previously, and you thought one of those might be a bottle. Is this one of those orange markings that you put in the road?
Yes, this would just be a different angle of one of the pictures we've already seen in another exhibit. But yes, the broken beer bottle and the orange paint is just where we would have marked that, hey, this is where this is. Obviously, that being in the road is highly susceptible to being moved, so we want to mark where we found that at.
Okay. So we've got something in the road, we've got it in the car, and now we've got another orange marking on a cap or a top of that what we call it.
Yes, sir. A Bud Light Lime bottle top just popped off in the road as well. That was actually in close proximity to the broken glass.
I'm going to show you what's marked Exhibit 4. This is another photograph you took. Is this in keeping with Bud Light Lime and bottles?
Yes, that appears to be a 6-pack cardboard box for Bud Light Lime bottles. Yes, sir.
And thus far, the evidence we've seen indicates that Bud Light Lime bottles were in the road and in the car.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And this was taken at the scene. You see grass along the side. This was taken somewhere near the collision spot, correct?
Yes, one of the other evidence photos shows a little more context, but yes, that is from the scene.
Well, and I want to bring up one thing. This looks like this is not in a bag, correct? It's just by itself. Is that fair?
Yes.
I'm not trying to call it a bag. The goods in a bag, right?
No, like a bag that you would get when you bought it from the store.
Now, I will show you another photograph marked as Defense Exhibit 5. This is a photograph that was taken of a top of a beer bottle, Bud Light Lime, apparently in the car. Is that fair to say it's inside the vehicle?
It is, yes.
Now I'm going to show you what's marked as Defense Exhibit 6. This, again, I think if you look and see the floorboard markings, this was taken inside the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Now, this particular packaging is still in the bag, is it not?
It is, yes.
And the one on the road was not?
Correct.
Okay. Would that indicate to you as an investigator that there were more than one six-pack in that area, not in the car?
Safe assumption, yes.
I'm going to show you what's marked as Defense Exhibit 7. Is this just a close-up picture of 6?
Correct, it is.
I'm going to show you what's marked as Defense Exhibit 8. That appears to be a car seat from a car, not for a child, a vehicle seat. Is that photograph taken inside of the Nissan?
It is.
And that appears to be a Bud Light Lime at the top as well, right?
Correct. It appears to be front seat. Unable to tell without the farther away shot.
Very well. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 9. Now, you found some interest in this particular item. Why might you find interest in that item?
Well, it was different than the Bud Light Limes, and it was the only intact bottle that I recall being on the scene anyway. Intact meaning not broken into pieces.
And at some point in time, you got that.
So this accident reconstructionist, he basically documented the scene, but he didn't do any accident reconstruction because they went outside and got it independent because, of course, he works for the state troopers, so they didn't want to seem biased.
Yeah, I think that was the smartest thing they could do, but I do think it's important what he did. It's more like a crime scene analyst, right? The pictures, the photographs of the beer bottles in the car, and I just want to mention while we have a moment that we know the driver of the car did not have a blood alcohol level, so although those bottles were in the car, he had not been drinking.
Yeah, seems like they haven't started to drink yet.
Yep, absolutely.